Today we are going to make a coil pot. So you'll start with one small ball of clay. You don't want too much at a time because you don't want to overwork it or else it will dry out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and flatten it. And if your clay manila has some dried clay on it, take this. Never put this on the floor because it'll dry and get slippery. Just take it and shake it in a trash can. Here's a template I made for the bottom of your coil pot. So break this in half, roll it into a sphere, and you're basically just going to make a pancake with it. You don't need to throw it on the table, but you can kind of smash it between your hands. We won't use a rolling pin for this one, but you still want it about the thickness of a cookie. You don't want it too thin. If the edges are thin, that's okay because you're going to cut those off anyway. So the thickness of your pinky finger maybe, that's pretty good. Consistency is also good here. I'm going to go ahead and write my initials in it and then turn it over and put the template on here. If you'd like to do a different shape, you can also do that. This is just a guideline, but if you want it rectangular or heart or something else, triangular, you can do that as well. And your whole pot will take that form. So if you have a triangle, your coils will follow that triangle and it'll be a triangular pot. Just like this was a rectangle base. And now the pot, or I guess it's more of a square, the pot kind of turned into a square. This is a little bit lazy, but here's an example of a circular base, and then the coils follow that to make a circular pot. So for coils, it's a little bit easier to roll them on your table than it is to roll them on the manila. So I'm going to start with the coil in my hand, kind of about the size of a baby carrot. And then I'm going to use my hands and evenly roll this out. You don't want it to look like a worm or a snake that just had lunch. You want it to be pretty consistent. Not too big either. Just as we attach anything, we need to use the score and slip method. So for this, the tools that we're going to use is a toothbrush. No, it has not been used on teeth. And a little bit of water. This is even a little bit too much water. So you don't want this to be soaking wet because that'll make your clay weak. So I'm going to tap this in the water, and I'm just going to score basically by poking this, scratching this up. And I'm also going to score the coil to make sure it sticks. So the second step to score and slipping is to apply pressure. So this isn't magic super glue. Once you put this on here, you have to press a little bit. Just like when you glue something, you have to hold it until the glue dries. It's the same thing. And even if it seems like, scoring a little bit more here, even if it seems like it's going to stick right now, you have to remember that the clay shrinks as it dries, and it might just fall apart as it dries. Okay, so there's my first layer of coil. I want everyone's first layer to look similar to this. And you can smooth these out. Any score marks or inconsistencies you can smooth out now or at the end. Notice my initials are still on the bottom. And then you can start adding different things. So if you want to add spheres like these, they kind of look like eyeballs, and then the coils will follow those for that wavy look, you can do that. This one, they added spheres and just empty spaces in between it. So it's a little bit more difficult to see, but they just did kind of a coil and then a sphere, and then a coil and a sphere. This one, they wrapped a coil like this and then coiled around it. So whatever pattern you'd like to do, go ahead and do it, but make sure that these are all scored and slipped together and that you've applied pressure. Also, this is going to be a 2-day project, so you really want to make sure that you finish. So if you're doing all of these circles today, you want to get those on there and maybe get this on there today too, so that it'll be stable, so it's not going to kind of topple over one side to the other before our next class. This project is glazed. So if it's glazed, that means it's food and drink safe. So if you want to put your cat's treats in there, you can do that. You can even drink out of it if there's no holes. And that also means that there's going to be one more firing in the kiln. So it's going to be a little bit longer before this process is done. So the clay has to dry, then we'll fire it in the kiln, then we'll glaze it, and then we will fire it one more time. So I'm just going to create one of these coils that I'll balance on it. Do it that big. You can vary them in size, you can make them the same size. And then wherever I'm going to put it, just make sure you apply the slip. We're using a cheater slip, it's just water, but mixed with that clay, it works fine. All right, that's it for today.